What's up, y'all? It's your girl J Renee with Prison Ride Radio. Hope that you're doing well. I got the brother Raheem back from the cage Guerrilla. We're gonna talk about some things. We did get to talk about his platform mostly the other time, but this time we want to talk about some things that's going on with his case and his life. Be able to get to know him a little bit better. You know what I mean? So find out the man behind everything that's going on. What's up, bro? How you doing?
I'm fine. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you. I'm glad that you was able to come back. There was a lot of other things that we needed to, talk about so that people can get to know you a little better, see what's going on with you and things like that. For those that might not have heard part one, give a brief rundown of who you are and where you from.
Okay, my name is Raheem Rahman, a.k.a. the Cage Guerrilla. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. Currently reside in Cumberland in an institution called North Branch Correctional Institution, which is in Cumberland, Maryland. I'm an author, a podcaster, as well as I like to consider myself a godly man, a father, a man who's fighting for his freedom.
Okay.
In the same thing, I got a book that I published called The Cage Guerrilla and a podcast of the like name. The book is available on Amazon, and the podcast is available everywhere that you listen to podcasts at.
Okay. All right, so we're going to talk more about, you said fighting for your life pretty much. Fighting for your freedom is what you got going on in the midst of all the other things that you do. So I want to give you an opportunity to talk to the people about, what you was charged with and how you found yourself on the other side of a guilty verdict when you're innocent.
Okay, well, I was charged with convicted for robbery with a deadly weapon in violation of probation. And I was just at a place where robbery occurred. And, the thing about it that is funny is that when we went to trial, I was there when another man committed a robbery. So he asked the lady to take him to the safe. The lady said there's no safe. She said, I can only give you the money in the medicine. So when we went to trial, we asked the lady, she said that I was the one who robbed her. So I said, so the question was asked, who was the one who had the gun? She said, I don't know. I said to her, I was unfortunately representing myself because I had to file my public defender, and the courts wouldn't allow me to pay him a lawyer. And so I'm fighting this case out Baltimore County, all white county, by myself. But I asked the lady, I said, what was my bid at the time? She said, I don't know. I said, what was my hairstyle at the time? She said, I don't know. I said, what role did I play? Participant A or participant B? She said, I don't know. I said to her, she said, what occurred? She said, one man said, take me to the safe, and the other man said, this is bad. So when I said to her, I said, when you say the man said this is bad, isn't that indicating to you that he's now put into bad situation? She said, I don't know. Yet they still, and then the guy who did the robbery came to court and said, man, I did the robbery, but he didn't know anything about the robbery when it occurred. I did it on my own. And how we got locked up is because I was arguing with him in the car, and the police team was arguing in the car about how he put me in this type of situation. Yet I still got found guilty for this crime and got 25 years no parole. And the guy who did the crime, he got 5 years in prison. And I'm still locked up for the crime, and this man is free, and it's been free for years. And because of that violated my probation, which they sentenced me to 25 years no parole and then 11 years of violation of probation. And they gave me 36 years running wild. So it became 11 years and 25 years no parole ran separately. And I had to do 25 straight years in prison before I'm even eligible for parole. Right now, I'm currently going 23 years in prison. So that's my situation. Oh, one other thing.
Go ahead.
One other thing real fast. So I've been fighting my appeal process for this because why I say wrongfully convicted outside of innocence, I like to say wrongfully convicted as well, is because on top of me being innocent, is that the laws in my case were clearly violated and I was clearly railroaded. And there's a difference between a situation where some legal mind has to dig into a case to find some issues. My case is what they call plain error. You read what happened, you read the law, you clearly see that I was clearly wrong. And yet every time I go to court, the judges deny me without again. So that's where I'm at now with my case. I'm in court now fighting it again.
You know, that's really wild. You know what I mean? Everything you said is absolutely outrageous that happened to you. I know I don't have to tell you that, but it's like one of those moments. It's like, what else can you say but to call it what it is, you know? I did have a question just a question, like, you said you weren't allowed to appoint some legal representation. What do you mean?
Okay, so when you go to court, you were assigned public defenders most of the time. So I was incarcerated, and they came to bring me to court on a day that I didn't even know that I was going to court on. So I was unprepared. I wasn't dressed properly, and I asked the judge, "Hey, I want a postponement, and I want to like to hire my own counsel to represent me. I don't want the public defender to represent me." I said to an example to prove that the public defender and me is not on the same type of page is that I didn't even know that I was coming to court today, yet here today we are in court where I'm unprepared. So I asked for a postponement. And the judge said, "You're going to trial today. You either go with the public defender or you go by representing yourself." And so I chose to go with myself because at least I knew that I had somebody who would fight on my behalf, because the public defender showed me that he wasn't fighting on my behalf because he didn't even let me know that I was going to court, and we never sat down and talked about the case whatsoever.
Right. It was like he didn't even not only give you time to prepare, but he didn't even try to prepare with you or tell you what he was thinking or anything. Like, he just was showing up in court.
Right.
Now that's crazy.
Yeah,
so
and I'm
go ahead.
Yeah. No, I mean that's just basically it in a nutshell. That you know that goes on. That goes on. I like to say that this goes on all the time. It's not like my case is unique. You know, that's why most guys are adverse to having the public defender representing them. Sometimes you have good public defenders. I will say that there are good public defenders out there, but for the most time, even if a guy comes out as a good public defender in the beginning, public defenders are so overwhelmed with work that it becomes routine for them just to get cases in and out. And that's what he was doing with me, trying to get my case over with without realizing that there's a man like him.
Right. Well, he had to realize it. He just didn't care. I mean, I'm not trying to be rude, but it's just a level of negligence that comes with that when your job is to defend people. But that's this is my take on it. You know what I mean?
No, that's a good take. I mean, that's our take.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sis.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you. Let me see. You made me lose my train of thought. That don't happen often either. So okay, when it came to your co-defendant, how did they end up getting only 5 years, and here you are still sitting there? What was that?
Well, because he took a cop, so they come to you a lot of times and they offer you cops, like even if you're innocent. And a lot of guys take cops and pleas because they know that the result of not taking it is a long extended prison sentence. So they offered him a cop, and he took the cop for 5 years in prison. He took the cop long early on. He took the cop for 5 years in prison. So that's how he wound up getting 5 years in prison. But for me, I went to trial. Of course, the innocent man, he's going to trial. I'm not innocent. I had nothing to do with this situation. And the man who had something to do with it, who did it, told me that I had nothing to do with this situation. And even the victim is saying, the teller of the case, he said that one person did everything, and the other person said this is bad. So I don't understand how is it not clear that you can't say we got the man who said he's guilty, who's owning up to it, and taking the cop. Why not let the other man go home? But that's not what happened. And I'll be going to explain.
Now, we made a point that the other person, your co-defendant, ended up doing, the 5 years because they pleaded out, but you still got an immense amount of time for that, not only because you're innocent and wrongfully convicted, but just in general. So, I know you had some thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, well, the thing that gets me most about this is that I was charged and sentenced to 25 years no parole, which means in this sense that I got to do 25 years flat before, I can go home. And the thing about the case is that, this guy did this on the spur of the moment. He thought that he had something sweet, he was in there to buy something, and then, he see this lady at the register at this place that he assumed was making money. And so he just, like he said, later on, I just thought it was, like he said, thought it was sweet. And asked the lady and take me to the safe. Now, the thing about it is that no gun was pulled. He didn't assault her in any type of way. He just asked her to take me to the safe, and she told him she didn't have no safe. He said, "Give me the money in the register." And the money that she had in the register was $97. Like, I had way more money than that in my own pocket. So he got $97 out of this situation. And because of this situation, they gave me 25 years with no parole. And what bothers me, another thing that affects me in doing my incarceration during this bid, is that I come across guys who got things like rape, who have molested their own children and things like that, and they done got 15 years, 10 years, 12 years. And here I am sitting in jail for over 20 years, almost 23 years now, for robbery, where actually no one was injured, no gun was used, and the money that was taken, I could have, when I got locked up, I had more than that in my own pocket. So, it's like, for me, it's overkill. It's just an example of how the system works to trap us in prison for the rest of our lives. That, that's just the point, the other point that I wanted to make about, my incarceration and some of the hardships that I go through and fighting is the amount of time that I got 25 years parole, that people have committed heinous crimes, and they get less time than me. That's that point right there. I just wanted to add to that.
So, being incarcerated for 23 years is a long time. How have you been making it through the time to stay, motivated?
Well, to be honest with you, sometimes are tougher than others. And to say this, in these last years, it has become a little easier. I was just talking to someone else earlier today, and they asked me the same question. They asked me to read a writing of mine. One of the writings that I read was "The Lady and the Lion," which really deals with the dynamics of the man in prison and the caretaker woman, not the woman like the woman who works inside of the facility, and her relationship to the man inside of prison. But the first part of this is what I expounded on, was that I have been through a lot of hardship. I have been through a lot of anger in doing this incarceration, to experience, not just because of my circumstance of being innocent and things like that, but on top of it, that I'm conscious of the exploitation, that comes with being in prison. I understand it from the aspect that prison is just the next dynamic of slavery. That when they was forced to end slavery, they created laws to create mass incarceration. So, for an example, and it ties into my time that I was talking about, is when they abolished slavery, they started locking the blacks up for charges like loitering, trespassing, and petty theft, because these blacks had nowhere to stay, and they had no money to get no food. So of course, there was places where they weren't supposed to be, and doing things that they shouldn't be doing, that they was trying to do to maintain, get some food in their stomach. And they was giving them life sentences. So what happened is that they changed slavery from the aspect of dealing with the 13th Amendment. It has that clause that we abolish slavery except for the person who commits the crime. So that person who commits the crime, they can now go back into servitude. And being doing that, I'm conscious of that. And being that I'm conscious of how not only the prisoner, but his family, society is being exploited by this prison system. This prison that has been hard for me. It's been tough. It's hard for me to adapt. I can't adapt. You know, most guys around me, they can adapt to prison life. I can't adapt to it. I'm conscious of the fact that I'm in a cell. I'm conscious of the fact that I'm in a prison. I'm conscious of the fact that my family is out there without me, and I'm conscious of the fact that I have not been present, in the life of some of my family because of my incarceration. So I haven't never done that. I spent a lot of my time on lockup, things of this nature, because only in these last couple of years have I become more trusting and relying upon my Lord, where so I can understand, and I believe now that my Lord has a plan, even though that I don't see it. So, for the most part, it's been a tough fit for me.
Is that some of what fuels your writing?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like that. Writing was my therapy. You know, how I started the book was when I came to the prison that I am in is a very racist prison. The officers are 99% white, and they come from they're a small community. They're very racist, clan-like type of people. They're very abusive towards the blacks. And here I've seen deep inmates, they murdered inmates, and as you can tell, my whole disposition is totally against that. And I felt as though sometimes the only way that I could to express myself was to write it on paper. And that's how I came about my book. I would write my thoughts about certain things that I would see or experience, and I would put it on paper and share it with the guys around me. And then the guy gave me suggestions that you should continue to write, collect it in the book, and to publish the book. And that's what I did.
Yeah. How long did it take you to write it?
Well, I think the book took me, I would say 7 years. Not because 7 years of writing. After 7 years of writing, I took the ones that I felt, because some of those were redundant. Some of the writings was in the book. It's like 63 writings, but of course, through those years, I had like 200 writings. But a lot of those were redundant, so I just took what I felt was best to fit each subject, and I put those inside of the book together, like that. So it touches every subject of incarceration, mental illness, family, relationships, loneliness, depression, you name it. Whatever people going through in life, that's in a book.
It's good that you put that together. That sounds like something that can help change some people's lives and help some healing processes.
Yeah. So, and I wanted to speak in a voice because sometimes a guy is going through some things, but you can't say it in a way that people can understand it. So I think God has given me a gift to be able to explain and communicate and to write. So my writing is like, it took me until last year to publish the book, but I've had the book written since 2016. And so a lot of the guys from society prison walls, they read the book. I'll pass it around and be, let me read it, let me read the book. And they be like, I can't wait till the book that I was able to read this stuff. I want to send it to, this person or this person I found. I want them to read it. So, I'm speaking a voice of the prison. I'm speaking a voice of the people that's in the struggle. That's when I dedicate the book to those in the struggle. Anyone who's been through the struggle, anyone who's going through hardship, that's what I wrote the book for. To be a voice, for them and hopefully an inspiration, for change, and for hopefully that people can be willing to put effort to, make change.
For sure. Tell everybody where they can find the book at.
Okay, you can buy the book on Amazon, Amazon.com. You can look up.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
Look at the book as Cage Guerrilla, Guerrilla, as Guerrilla, like the freedom fighter. So I use the word as a monkey to try to show the dynamic of, they try to treat it like monkeys, so you got to confuse. I'm the gorilla that's a freedom fighter. I ain't the gorilla that's a monkey.
Right.
You know, like that. Unfortunately, that's our time. But, you know, I appreciate you giving me this time. I hope you buy the book. And I hope I inspire some people by the things that I talk about.